designs ripe for action, and thought it now a crime to deny himself any longer to the injured world that wanted such a deliverer. The more when he considered what grievances he was to redress, what wrongs and injuries to remove, what abuses to correct, and what duties to discharge. So one morning before day, in the greatest heat of July, without acquainting anyone with his designs, with all the secrecy imaginable, he armed himself cap a pie, laced on his ill-contrived helmet, braced on his target, grasped his lance, mounted Rosinante, and at the private door of his backyard sallied out into the fields, wonderfully pleased to see with how much ease he had succeeded in the beginning of his enterprise. But he had not gone far ere a terrible thought alarmed him, a thought that had like to have made him renounce his great undertaking. For now it came into his mind that the poor honor of knighthood had not yet been conferred upon him, and therefore, according to the laws of chivalry, he neither could nor ought to appear in arms against any professed knight. Nay, he also considered that though he were already knighted, it would become him to wear white armor, and not to adorn his shield with any device until he had deserved one by some extraordinary demonstration of his valor. These thoughts staggered his resolution, but his frenzy prevailing more than reason, he resolved to be dubbed a knight by the first he should meet, after the example of several others, who, as their romances informed him, had formerly done the like. As for the other difficulty about wearing white armor, he proposed to overcome it by scouring his own at leisure until it should look whiter than ermine. And, having thus dismissed these scruples, he rode calmly on, leaving it to his horse to go which way he pleased, firmly believing that in this consisted the very essence of adventures. And as he thus went on, no doubt, said he to himself, that when the history of my famous achievements shall be given to the world, the learned author will begin it in this very manner. When he comes to give an account of this my setting out, scarce had the ruddy Phoebus begun to spread the golden tresses of his lovely hair over the vast surface of the earthly globe, and scarce had those feathered poets of the grove, the pretty painted birds, tuned their little pipes to sing their early welcomes in soft, melodious strains to the beautiful Aurora, displaying her rosy graces to mortal eyes from the gates and balconies of the Manchican horizon, when the renowned knight, Don Quixote de la Mancha, disdaining soft repose, forsook the voluptuous town, and mounting his famous steed Rosinante, entered the ancient and celebrated plains of Mancha. This was indeed the very road he took, and then proceeding, "O happy age, O fortunate times," cried he, "decreed to usher into the world my famous achievements worthy to be engraved on brass, carved on marble, and delineated in some masterpiece of painting, as monuments of my glory and examples for posterity. And thou, venerable sage, wise enchanter, whatever be thy name, thou whom fate has ordained to be the companion been really in love. "O Princess Dulcinea," cried he, "lady of this captive heart, much sorrow and woe have you doomed me to in banishing me thus, and imposing on me your rigorous commands, never to appear before your beauteous face. Remember, lady, that loyal heart, your slave, for whom your love submits to so many miseries." To these extravagant conceits he added a world of others, all in imitation and in the very style of those which the reading of romances had furnished him with, and all this while he rode so softly, and the sun's heat increased so fast, and was so violent, that it would have been sufficient to have melted his brains, had he had any left. He traveled almost all that day without meeting any adventure worth the trouble of relating, which put him into a kind of despair, for he so desired nothing more than to encounter immediately some person on whom he might try the vigor of his arm. Towards the evening, he and his horse, being heartily tired and almost famished, Don Quixote looked about him in hopes to discover some castle, or at least some shepherd's cottage, there to repose and refresh himself, and at last near the road which he kept, he espied an inn, a most welcome sight to his longing eyes. Hastening towards it with all the speed he could, he got thither just at the close of the evening. There stood by chance at the inn 2 young female adventurers, who were going to Seville with some carriers that happened to take up their lodging there that very evening. And as whatever our knight-errant saw, thought, or imagined was all of a romantic cast, and appeared to him altogether after the manner of his favorite books. He no sooner saw the inn, but he fancied it to be a castled fence with 4 towers and lofty pinnacles glittering with silver, together with a deep moat, drawbridge, and all those other appurtenances peculiar to such kind of places. When he came near it, he stopped a while at the distance from the gate, expecting that some dwarf would appear on the battlements and sound his trumpet to give notice of the arrival of a knight. But finding that nobody came, and that Rosinante was for making the best of his way to the stable, he advanced to the door, at which the innkeeper immediately appeared. He was a man whose burden of fat inclined him to peace and quietness, yet when he observed such a strange disguise of a human shape in his old armor and equipage, he could hardly forbear laughter, but, having the fear of such a warlike appearance before his eyes, he resolved to give him good words, and therefore accosted him civilly. "Sir Knight," said he, "if your worship be disposed to alight, you will fail of nothing here but of a bed. As for all other accommodations, you may be supplied to your mind." Don Quixote, observing the humility of the governor of the castle, for such the innkeeper and the inn seemed to him, "Signor Castellano," said he, "the least thing in the world suffices me, for arms are the only things I value, and combat is my bed of repose. At this time, Sir Knight, you may safely alight, and I dare assure you, you can hardly miss being kept awake all the year long in this house, much much less one single night. With that, he went and held Don Quixote's stirrup, who hadn't eaten nothing all that day, dismounted with no small trouble and difficulty. He immediately desired the governor, that is, innkeeper, to have special care of his steed, assuring him that there was not a better in the universe, upon which the innkeeper viewed him narrowly, but could not think him to be half as good as Don Quixote said. However, having set him up in the stable, he came back to the knight to see what he wanted, and whether he could eat anything. "That I will, with all my heart," cried Don Quixote, "whatever it be, for I am of opinion nothing can come to me more seasonably." Now it happened to be Friday, and there was nothing to be had at the inn but some pieces of fish, which they call truquela. So they asked him whether he could eat any of that truquela, because they had no other fish to give him. Don Quixote, imagining they meant a small trout, told them that, provided that there were more than one, it was the same thing to him. They would serve him as well as a great one, for, continued he, "it is all one to me whether I am paid a piece of 8 in one single piece, or in 8 small reals, which are worth as much. Besides, it is probable these small trouts may be like veal, which is finer meat than beef, or like the kid, which is better than the goat. In short, let it be what it will, so it comes quickly, for the weight of armor and the fatigue of travel are not to be supported without recruiting food." Thereupon they laid the cloth at the inn door for the benefit of the fresh air, and the landlord brought him a piece of the salt fish, but ill-watered and as ill-dressed, and as for the bread, it was as moldy and brown as the knight's armor. While he was at supper, a pig driver happened to sound his cane trumpet, or whistle for reeds, 4 or 5 times as he came near the inn, which made Don Quixote the more positive that he was in a famous castle, where he was entertained with music at supper, that the country girls were great ladies, and the innkeeper the governor of the castle, which made him applaud himself for his resolution, and his setting